You're watching We All Be News Radio, News Free Dixie for the 21st century. I'm Thaddeus Matthews.
Hello, welcome everybody to We All Be Radio. That was the Yellow Brick Road's theme song from the upcoming movie about the life of Miss FrancINe Miss FrancINe Lucas-SINclair, the daughter of the American Gangster movie subject Frank Lucas. And please feel free to call in. It's a very important We All Be radio special. Please feel free to call in at area code 646-652-4593. Or if you're scared to get on the air, please drop us an email line or two at r2c2h2@gmail.com. Once again, that's alphabet R, numeric 2, alphabet C, numeric 2, alphabet H, numeric 2 @gmail.com. And without further ado, is the great Miss FrancINe Lucas-SINclair. You are on the air.
How are you?
Hey, Miss FrancINe Lucas-SINclair. Thank you. And welcome to We All Be Radio. It's an honor to have you on today. Are you doing fine?
Thank you. I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm fine. I can't complain. It was a stormy Sunday up here in Memphis, Tennessee, but we fine. I'm still above ground, so I can't complain about too much. And we're going to get right into this story because it was interesting. I was looking up your father online last week, and I happened to run into your website. And I saw the Glamour article, which was very well done, in my opinion, about you and dealing with the legacy of your father, and as well as your passion, which is being an advocate for children of incarcerated parents. You recently started a website called www.yellowbrickroads.org. Could you please explain to us what was the genesis behind starting this organization?
Yes. Well, the whole thing behind this organization was back in June of this year, 2007. I was asked to come out public with my story by Glamour magazine. And several people from some grassroots organizations that deal with children of incarcerated parents had talked to me about the importance of bringing awareness to this issue, that many people have been working on it for many years but have not been able to get the public support, and that my story, since it was linked to this movie that was going to be very popular, would be invaluable as far as bringing awareness to the issue. So when I decided to do the Glamour magazine piece, I also thought that it would be a good idea to put up a website where people could find resources for the children of incarcerated parents, wherever these might be. So at the beginning, I thought of just having a website where people can find information. But people kept on sending me emails asking me where can they find Yellow Brick Roads, or where are we, and when is this organization going to get started. And I just took it like God was trying to tell me that I needed to build an actual organization. And about a month and a half ago, I decided that we were going to actually build this organization and that it was going to be a national one. And so that's where we are right now. We're laying the foundation, getting this started, and we're hoping that by April of 2008, we will open up the first chapter in Atlanta, Georgia, and from there will be a chapter in every major city of the United States, and we will eventually expand to the UK and possibly Norway.
That was very ambitious. I like to add, this is interesting, like you said, it will be April 2008 for the first opening of the first organizational chapter, which is significant to me because you're in Atlanta, and April will mark the 40th anniversary of the assassination of Dr. King. Mm-hmm. So this is very interesting. I guess one of his missions was to take care of the least of our society. And also it's interesting, why now? Why come? I know you said Glamour magazine prompted you, but reading the article, you were very hesitant to talk about your father as well as your mom's past or legacy. Mm-hmm. What made you for yourself decide that this would be the right time?
Well, I didn't have to do this because I don't think that I would have had to come out public. There was no benefit to me to just come out and say I'm the daughter of Frank Lucas for the sake of it, because there was no benefit to it. Mm-hmm. Actually, it was shameful. But since I saw that there could have been a lot of children could benefit from this as far as bringing awareness, and then also with this awareness and the name that I've established for myself, use this to get this organization the way I think it should be. Coming from a child of incarcerated parents, because I had both of my parents incarcerated, I know from personal experience what these children need. And I thought that I should use the experience and the pain I had to go through. Maybe there was a purpose for that, and I think that this is a purpose to help countless children out there. There's over 2.5 million of them out there in this country alone who need help, and I wanted to give those kids a voice. So that's why, even though I had kept this back for 30 years and didn't want to talk about it, to the extent that I even started using my mother's maiden name and took the Lucas away just to conceal my identity, I thought that it would be good to help other people. So that's why I did it.
Have you been able to, I know I was just reading that article, are you able to talk with your father about his past doings, or is it kind of impossible for you still to talk about it with him directly, how you felt, how it affected you growing up and still dealing with it?
No, I really haven't talked about it from that angle with my father, because I know that it would only make him feel bad, and I don't see a purpose, or I don't see the point in me, bringing that up to him and asking him this. Everything I need to know is out there. So as far as me telling him how it made me feel, he's already heard it, and I don't feel like it's necessary, quite frankly, because he got the point, and I just don't want to, rub that in anymore. So.
Oh, but I know you got young children. How will you deal with his legacy? How will you explain it to your young children when they come of age, or do you plan on explaining it to them?
Yeah, when they come of age, I got a movie, I got a stack of magazines, and just ask me all the questions you want, and then, I'll talk to them about the consequences of, breaking the law, and also from the other aspect, the consequences of, for example, using drugs. I would be the first to take them to a crack house to see what happens when people use drugs, and what the consequences. Hopefully they'll be like me and learn from other people's experience that that's not the way to go. I'm hoping that that's the way they'll see it. Even though my daughter, she thinks Denzel Washington's her grandfather. And she's wondering why he hasn't come see her. Why is Granddad not coming over here now? But, yeah, and I'll have to explain that to her, too.
That's fine, but what's interesting, though? It's like, it seems like it's just looking at your father's story and whatnot, it is amazing that a black person can actually do what he did. And I know that a lot of our people in our community look at that as being a negative, but, given up the time and circumstance he was brought up in, if it wasn't him, somebody was going to eventually do what he did anyway, correct? Or you feel like that, or you think that's not true?
Well, the Italians and the Jews and everybody else were doing it in our communities, and what he did was, the way he explains it, is that he capitalized on a market that was already there and that other people were taking advantage on. That doesn't make it right.
Right.
Other people were taking advantage of that market, the Italians at the time. So what he did was, move them out, basically push them out to capitalize on that market that was already there. It wasn't right, but that's what he did. So, no, black people were capable of many good things and many bad things like everybody else is, and a lot of other races underestimate us, but, we're not any smarter or any dumber than anybody else. It's just the circumstances, especially for us here in America, that have made it very hard for us, and that's a fact we cannot deny,
Yeah, I touched on, reiterate a point to what Chris Rock made in one of his comedy specials about how behind every great wealth there's a great crime. And I look at how some of these so-called legitimate families, I'm talking about white people like the Kennedys or, Italians or Jews, anybody, how they made their family wealth and how they legitimized their wealth generations later.
Absolutely, yeah. Like the Kennedys, I think they came from a bootlegger The Vanderbilts were crooks. The Peabodys used to sell heroin to the Chinese. So, yeah, the only thing was that they were able to, because of their skin color, they were able to legitimize. But my father and many others, like my father, weren't able to do that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's a terrible thing what my father did, but he's not the first one and won't be the last, you know. And unfortunately, you know, as human beings, we have a lot of things to work on, you know.
That is definitely correct. I agree with you totally 100%, Sister FrancINe. Mm-hmm. And there's so many other things like I could touch on, but I think, like, also, you know, the hip-hop culture, you know, like, you know, the 50, I'm not labeling anybody, but the 50 Cent, you know, the movie Scarface, like, a lot of hip-hop culture people love the movie Scarface. Mm-hmm. And, like, I think they misinterpret the message of the movie Scarface. So, you know, they just grabbed hold of whatever they thought it meant, and they ran with it. So do you feel that the American Gangster, that the hip-hop culture or hip-hop generation can misinterpret the message in American Gangster? Is there a message to be really interpreted?
Yeah, you know, I think that everybody's going to take it, is going to use it to the way they feel it you know, it's best for them. Like, some people are going to feel that, oh, wow, I want to be like that, you know, I want to be like Frank Lucas. I could probably get away with doing what Frank did. And other people are going to think it's terrible. Hold on for me 1 second. Mm-hmm. It just depends on, I think that there was some glorification in that. There was some glorification in that because, you know, you can't see a movie with Denzel Washington without loving the character. You know what I mean?
Right, that's true.
And not to say that Dad wasn't a very charming person, but, you know, Hollywood is just about the money, really.
Right.
I mean, yeah, they're going to try not to send the wrong message, but at the end of the day, they're going to do what makes them the most money. Because why would they have picked somebody so popular as Denzel Washington that absolutely everybody loves,
right,
to play a bad guy like everybody's supposed to supposedly hate? You know, yeah, and in a way they are sending the wrong message. But the film also has historical value. So I think it was a film very well done. And unfortunately, the most vulnerable minds are going to take the wrong things out of it, you know?
That's true. Area code 910, you on the air?
Yes. First, I'd like to say that I applaud Miss Lucas for what she's doing and not trying to capitalize on this situation as the Gaudis did with these live shows, because it does send the wrong message. And even though we have to deal with the sins of our fathers, and I'm no different, I think the approach we take in dealing with it is very important, and I think you have a valid program. You're taking something positive, what the enemy meant for evil, God's turning it out for good. But do you see that movie being glamorized as it is, hurting your cause, because these kids that you're trying to save, given that these people are incarcerated, then go back in the environment and they kind of dampen what you put into the situation. I work with prison ministries, and that's a problem we have. We try to tell some of the prisoners they understand that they don't want their children to fall in the same footsteps. As a result, they applaud what we do. But on the other hand, you have these lifetime gangbangers, and, you know, they live a lifestyle that they're saying, look, this is our community. This is the way we deal with it, as opposed to a legitimate approach to sustaining themselves in life. But I do applaud what you're doing. And the question, I guess, is your father's legacy and this glamorization of this thing. Do you feel more compelled to speak out against it as the movie, even as you know, this is a negative twist? I want you guys to understand, first and foremost, my thing is to help these people who have children that are incarcerated to understand that's not the way to approach it.
Yeah, you know, I am focusing on the children first, but that's the reason I want to come out with this movie about my life, because the movie American Gangster didn't hardly focus on the negative aspect. Most of it was the whole, when everybody was rolling in the dough, how smart he was, this and that. But if you notice, the bad part comes out in the last 15 minutes or whatever. So, and they didn't even show my mom and dad having any kids. So I was there during that raid. I was there in that courtroom. If they would have had a kid there, maybe people would have said, "Oh wow, yeah, look." But no, they didn't consider it important. So with my movie, I want to focus on the downside of all of that, American Gangster, and that's where I think I will be able to actually help people see that aspect of it.
And what's the name of your movie?
We don't know yet, but people will know because it'll say the FrancINe Lucas story. I don't know if it's going to be called Yellow Brick Roads or what, but I don't know if we'll have a problem with the Wizard of Oz.
You didn't say Rose. So I think you'll be okay.
I'm not sure. I gotta ask the wizard, So if not, I'm not sure what it's gonna be called, but everybody will know. It's gonna say the FrancINe Lucas story somewhere.
And what's your obsession? What is your obsession with Wizard of Oz? Why Yellow Brick Road?
What's my official what?
Obsession with Wizard of Oz. You have an obsession with Wizard of Oz, the movie?
Oh, well, that comes from when I used to watch it a lot, over and over again. And it's because I used to draw this parallel with, Dorothy when she was going through the Wizard of Oz, and all these obstacles kept jumping in her way, but that she had other people beside her that were helping her, and she stayed on that road, and because she stayed on that road, at the end she was able to get to where she wanted to go. I used to fantasize about, okay, if I'm a good girl and I stay on the right path, then the Wizard of Oz is going to bring my mom and my dad back. That's what I used to think. But the Yellow Brick Road philosophy is for these kids that no matter how hard it is, it gets, and it is, and it will be, that if they stick to that Yellow Brick Road philosophy, their life will get better, and it is possible to leave this horror they're going through behind.
I mean, that's interesting. Speaking of the Wizard of Oz, like, who was your 10-man and Scarecrow in line? And who was the people that really kept you on the right track? Because the one thing about you, you're a brilliant woman in your own right. You're a mortgage banker. You're college educated. You got a successful career going, and you got a beautiful family. So who were your people to help you? Who was your support team to help you stay on the Yellow Brick Road?
My support team were my grandparents in Puerto Rico, Ernesto and Julia, and my dad and my mom from behind bars. They used to call me all the time on Sundays. My mom used to send me letters. My dad used to call me. And also, I used to go to the Girl Scouts. And even though nobody knew my problem over there, but that used to keep me busy. My Girl Scouts leader, Cynthia. So it's basically my mom, my dad, and my grandparents were the people who were there. And that's why these kids, most of them want to keep a relationship with their parents because their parents broke the law does not mean that they did not have a meaning to their children and did not have a good relationship with their children. So it's important for these kids to see their parents and maintain a relationship with them.
That's cool. It's like I was reading from the article that I read that you had a hard time communicating, like, some of the problems going on with your parents, the people outside your family. Were you able to tell your friends at all, anybody you can trust outside your family, about what you were dealing with?
No. I kept that pretty much secret till now. I didn't tell anybody about that. I went to great lengths to hide that. I did all kinds of things to hide that. I'd come up with stories everywhere from my dad was in the military to he was in real estate, and then I'd have to remember who I told what lie, And my mom, she's traveling, she's a traveling nurse, who knows what I made up. I had to keep up with those. So it was it taught me how to be a good actress, that's for sure.
Yeah, they say most people use about 10 or 12% of their brain. It's like you use like over like 50 or 67% of your brain if you're doing all that.
I tried to stick with two stories and categorize people. Like the really close people, I tell this, and people who were just passing acquaintances that I probably wouldn't know for too long, I'd tell this. So it was just like, a whole scheming thing I had to keep up just because I didn't want to have to explain myself to people. And I hated people to feel sorry for me. That's one thing I can't stand. I can't stand other people's pity. Mm-hmm. And, also I didn't want them to be talking about my parents, telling me, oh, your parents are bad, or then they might think I'm bad or something, So I'd just rather keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid.
You far from stupid, but I ask you too, like the dating thing. I mean, were you able to get a boyfriend during this time in your life? It's like you had a lot of things to keep away. And you couldn't trust getting too close to anybody, particularly a boyfriend or whatnot. So, did you have any boyfriends, or was it difficult for you to date?
Well, I didn't date anybody till I was 21 because I was a geek. Mm-hmm. I was a nerd, and then. I was in Puerto Rico, so nobody over there knew who Frank Lucas was. And but when I was about 27, that my dad came out in the New York Magazine with his story by Mark Jacobson, which was the genesis to the movie. He told me about that, and I ran to the nearest bookstore and bought the 12 copies that were on the rack and tried to hide them. And so I told one boyfriend about that, and that was enough for him to. Because he was a white guy, and he asked, does your dad come and visit you often? And he ran the other way as fast as he could, okay? So I'm like, So then I met this Jamaican guy, and he didn't think it was a big deal. So that's the guy I married. But, I didn't go around telling, but once that article came out, I had to tell, those who I thought I was getting serious with, because I didn't want to be in the position where later I would have 2 kids and then have to tell them like now, So.
How has your life been? I know it's kind of like a whirlwind experience since June of this year. How has your life been as far as how has your coworkers or people in the community, how have they treated you?
People, I thought I was going to get like a lot of people talking bad things, saying bad things about me or looking at me cross-eyed or something, but it's been the opposite. Maybe it's the people who think ill of me don't tell me, but everybody who I've come in contact with and the people that I know that didn't know, and like my friends that I have forever that didn't know anything, they have had a positive reaction to me, and so it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, actually.
So you didn't have any fallout with anybody over this, or everybody was pretty cool?
Did I have a fallout with anybody? No, I didn't have a fallout with anybody. Everybody was cool. I've received a lot of emails to my website, and out of those emails, I've only gotten 2 people who are just mean, and I think those 2 are crazy, but yeah. One was a veteran from Vietnam, and actually it was towards my dad, and the other one was somebody thinking that I was using this to take advantage financially of the situation. And, that I was just full of it. Those are the only 2 bad emails I've received.
Well, that's good. You got to focus on the positive. Cause, like things that happen with your father, that's out of your hands, and that wasn't your fault, And also, you just as much a victim as anybody else in this whole ordeal. You lost your parents for a very pivotal part of your life growing up, so.
Right. So, most people understand that. Now, some people I do get mixed about, my dad, and I understand that too, I'm not going to expect everybody to be, oh, poor thing, Frank Lucas. Yeah, he made bad choices, and I got to respect everybody's opinion about that. But,
the movie,
I'm treating very well.
The movie that you're working on, is it going to be a documentary or is it going to be more like a movie?
It's going to be a movie.
Okay.
We are going to make a documentary also about the children, I don't know when that's going to come out, but the movie about my wife is going to be a movie.
And brother Dwayne Omar, that's the guy who created the Yellow Brick Road's theme song.
Yeah, Dwayne Omar.
And he's a good brother. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I was getting addicted to it in a good way, no pun intended. I was getting addicted to the song. I kept on playing it over and over again when he sent it to me this week. And, I mean, like, how much of the input you had into the song?
Input, you know what? I didn't have any input because he actually just, like, he said he got into my soul and basically did the song. That's what he did. I guess from talking to me, he was able to, he's a very talented person, so he was able to somehow put that song together. Like, I felt like I wrote that song. You know? I felt like I wrote that song. That's how talented he is.
Let me ask you this, too. Like, how do you, like, everybody needs some type of hobby or pastime. What do you do to relax yourself for a hobby?
Oh, man, when I can, I like to read a book, but I can hardly do anything because I have a 1-year-old and I have a 5-year-old, and I can hardly do anything without them because when they're not here, then I have to, you know, I'm a housewife right now, so I do the house chores and work on my organization and take care of my kids, so I don't have any spare time.
Well, that's interesting. Like, you know, did this choice to be a housewife, did it play from part from your past, like dealing with the lack of your mom being there in your life? Was this like a decision, like, you know, when I have kids, I'm going to be a housewife?
Absolutely. I chose to be a housewife after I had my second child because I didn't want to have my kids, like, in daycare all the time and stuff. And I also like being there for them all the time. So it has to do directly with the fact that my mom wasn't there. Directly has to do with that. So
that's cool. So how your husband, like, are you able to talk about, you know, your dad, your husband? I know you said your husband is accepting, so you was able to reveal a lot of things that you couldn't share with people outside your family to your husband, correct?
What was that my husband?
It was very accepting. Of course, he wouldn't have married you. Well, you were able to share things that you wanted to share with people that were close to you outside your family with him? Or are you able to? I try to keep as many secrets as I can. I only tell what's absolutely necessary. So I'm not sure that my husband knows any more than everybody else does at this point. Because I'm just like, I'm going to hang on to every last thing I can. There's not much else after that. There's not really much else to say. But I'm not the type of person that likes to just open myself up like an open book. My mom's the opposite. She likes to tell everybody everything. I'm like my dad. My dad says, if you don't want somebody to know something, don't tell anybody. And that's the best thing. That's the best thing. If you don't want somebody to know something, don't tell anybody. So now, your parents are back together, correct?
Yeah, they live in New Jersey.
That's cool. So it's interesting. Like, how is it like to see your father? I mean, I saw American Gangster and just looking at other things. How is it to see your father on TV talk about his life?
He loves that because he loves to be able to tell people his side of the story now, and that he likes to be able to say that he's sorry about that and that kids shouldn't go that way. But it is strange. It's really surreal. So most days I wake up thinking, did I just have a crazy dream the day before, you know? Because my dad, you know, I never thought this movie would actually happen. And it's just crazy. I mean, I've done so many interviews, international press, U.S. press. I've been in magazines in France and in Great Britain and South Africa. And even in Puerto Rico, where I'm from, some people came over last week to do something for. So it's like, oh my God, I can't believe this. What? You know, I can't believe it. It's but at least I feel good about it because I'm doing something positive with it. I'm not just, you know, out there, you know, doing this for the heck of it. So.
I'd like to ask you, too, something that I know you're dealing with children and incarcerated parents, but what is, like, the number one problem facing our youth today, particularly, like, inner-city youth? What's the number one problem you feel in your mind that they are facing?
Youth?
Mm-hmm.
Man, I think it's the lack of education and, the lack of education of I think financial literacy is a big thing, and also just the lack of role models, like real role models. I think that's a big problem because if there were a whole lot of people like Earl Graves walking around mentoring kids in our communities, I think things would be a little different. But instead we got a whole lot of 50 Cent and those type of guys out there, so... And Frank Lucas's.
Yeah,
so,
I did say that.
Yeah, so I think education, poverty, and the lack of role models.
What about as a whole, youth as a whole, then? Everybody.
Youth as a whole? As a whole, we're talking about all of the youth.
Right.
The biggest problem for youth, I think, all this, it scares me how kids grow up these days. I think it's all this technology nowadays. Kids don't go outside and play anymore. They're on that TV. When I was growing up, I would just walk down the street to my friend's house, knock on the door, go play. My parents didn't have to worry about my grandparents where I was. I'd just come back in a certain amount of time. Now you have to actually schedule a play date for your kid to go play with somebody and drive them to their house. That to me is crazy. I wonder how these kids are going to end up being when they grow up, And I think that's a big problem in my eyes because that's, the infrastructure. Kids don't play anymore outside. They don't do things that kids used to do, and to me that's huge because that's how their personality develops. They might, Go ahead.
Yeah. I think it was interesting, too, the Sean Taylor thing, the football player from the Redskins, the Florida native, how he was killed in the break-in, and, it was like a bunch of young guys that broke into his house. But this thing about, a lot of kids don't know how to fight. Just like you said, getting outside. But also, back in your father's time, it seemed like these guys had a code. They only killed certain people that was involved with. They didn't do certain things like shoot people on Sundays and go into church. The thing is that there's no code, no honor. I'm not saying that there's honor among people, but they had rules. There's no rules, and people don't know how to fight, and they're scared to lose fight.
Yeah.
And they're scared of looking bad in front of people.
I think so. Yeah, now kids are desensitized. I think a lot of with these video games and these kids playing all these bloody video games, I think we've lost respect for life and for a lot of things in this generation. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to the next generation,
My thing is, too, is I know somebody was talking to me about the baby boomer generation, how they really dropped the ball. Like, it seemed like what was good for you growing up should be good for your kids, too, but people do the reverse. I don't want to raise my kids up like I've been raised, which is being a responsible, accountable person. I want to raise them opposite from that. So I just think it's interesting, it's going to take, like you said, a generation or two for this, I hope, to get rectified. But I always like to quote a quote that Frederick Douglass said. He said, it's easier to raise strong children than it is to repair broken men. I think we do have a chance with the youth, but also there's too many distractions going on. And, I know people say about the kids, how accountable should parents be held for their kids? You think, for example, like in the school system, a lot of folks say, well, where's the parents? Like I got a teacher friend, they talk about the lack of parental participation. But then a lot of people say it's the quality of the school teachers. Who should take more blame for the condition of the kids?
The parents, of course. You can't expect for a teacher to do your responsibilities. You brought these kids to the world. They're your responsibility. And if the teachers aren't doing their job, you need to move your kid to another school. Ultimately, it's your responsibility. That's it. I don't buy any of that about the teachers. Yeah, the teachers do have some responsibility. But, for me, it's as simple as if the school is failing, the teachers are no good, I'm taking my kid out of there. I don't care, how much responsibility they have. So you got to watch out for your kids first and foremost.
And also, like, where do you see yourself? So I know that you said that you like to keep a lot of secrets to yourself, of course. So you won't be writing any type of tell-all book anytime soon, correct?
No, I'll be writing a book, but it won't be tell-all. it'll be tell a lot.
Right.
I tell a lot, and I can write probably 3 or 4 volumes. I'm just gonna write one book, but it'll be very interesting.
And also, do you let me see. There's so many things I could talk about with you. It's like you know, very well versed. Do you prefer nonfiction over fiction?
No, I prefer nonfiction. Yes.
Why nonfiction?
I prefer nonfiction, yes, than fiction. You know, even though I do like. I'm not going to say I don't like fiction, but I prefer nonfiction.
Why do you prefer it?
Well, because I think you can draw lessons, better lessons off of nonfiction than fiction.
Let me ask you this too. Also, how are you religious at all, or?
Am I? I was born Catholic and grew up going to but I'm not religious actually. I believe in God and I have a lot of faith, but I'm not religious. As far as the religion, the most that appeals to me is Buddhism.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to Buddhist organizations. Don't actively pursue it, but I don't actively pursue any religion.
Do you practice? Do you believe in the laws of attraction? Then, like the secret, that secret craze have been out.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe, not to the T, because the secret, I think, is a little bit on the far-fetched side. But yeah, the laws of the universe, law of attraction, what you think. Yeah, I believe in that. We're all connected. And I believe in an afterlife, and that life is just like a university. And after we leave here, we're just going to go about our business what we were doing before we got here,
That's true. And I'd like to get back to education. I know I think you got a teacher spirit. What would be the most important curriculum you think the school system in this country could add to help kids better themselves?
Yeah, financial literacy. Did I say that? Yeah. Because, I think that's a big problem because in some communities or some people, like, for example, the Jews, they take that into their own hands. I haven't met a poor Jew in my life. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, maybe upper middle class is not poor. I agree.
They're on to something. Maybe they're not leaving it up to their schools to teach the kids about financial literacy, about money, about business. I know they don't believe that being rich is you're going to hell, like in in some of our religions. We think that rich people, the Bible says that some people take it literally that a camel will go through a needle before a rich person goes to the kingdom of heaven. Those are mistaken beliefs, I think. And I think that's the biggest thing. And if I can do anything about it, trust me, there will be something somewhere where people can take their kids and have them take school classes about financial literacy. I think there's a camp in California. They can put your kids in for the summer and teach them all these things they need to know, because I think that in order for you to have peace of mind, and even though money doesn't make happiness, it helps, because if you can free yourself from financial worries, you can use your creativity, you can do other things, and not have to be so bogged down with worrying about how you're going to pay your light bill and stuff, which are the things that don't let you enjoy life. And you can achieve your purpose better,
Let me ask you this. I think that was interesting on that point. You made some excellent points. And I know also recently that NBC, Brian Williams, Nightly News, did a special about black women, African-American women. And I know you got 2 beautiful daughters, correct?
1 boy and 1 girl.
1 boy and 1 girl. I guess so you can see both sides of the coin here. It's like, how do you see the future of black males in America? What do you think about black males in America?
Everybody gives a grim picture about black males in America, but you know what? I think black males in America are going to be just fine, you know. I think that we have low expectations about black men, and that's maybe part of the reason why you know, there's so many of them in trouble and in prison. But I heard that the rate of men going to college increased in the past 5 years. I'm optimistic about it. I think black men are going to be just fine. You know, they're not dumber than any other type of men in this world, and black American men are going to be just fine. Where they're going to catch up, and they're gonna be just fine. And I see some very smart brothers out there. Let's take, for example, Dwayne Omar. You know, that man, he's smart. Cornell Brown, you know, those should be out there being role models to other black men. Seriously. I mean, those two men right there should be role models for black men of America. And I see a lot of other black men going that route, and they're going to be just fine. That's my view and my take on it.
And so it's definitely also attractive because Brother Omar did your theme song, and also Brother Brown is your manager, correct?
He's my manager, yeah.
How do you meet these two brothers?
You know, I did an interview for V103. My dad had a V103 interview, actually, I don't know, maybe a month ago, and he called me. He called me on the phone out of blue, like, you're on the radio or something like that. And I'm like, okay. So I gave my spiel about Yellow Brick Roads, and Cornell Brown heard me and mentioned it to Dwayne. I think Dwayne went to my website, sent me an email. And I was trying to sort out through thousands of email people trying to hustle, you know, just like everybody's got to hustle. And I'm trying to figure out who's for real and who's trying to. And for some reason, when I went to Dwayne's website, his MySpace, I saw his picture, and he seemed like so sincere. And I called him, and that's how and he introduced me to Cornell, and that's how I met them too. But I think they're just like angels because God put them in my way, because if I wouldn't have had them, I don't know what it would be of me. I mean, I would be not even close to where I am now as far as Yellow Brick Road goes.
It is a blessing. So you met these brothers around the same time when you started getting exposed. So in a way, your father had I guess it was he called delayed gratification with your father. He told he had to go through the things he went through, and you had to go through the things you went through. There is a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, correct? So that's pretty cool.
So I'm sorry, what's that about the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow?
Yeah, I tried to do a little Wizard of Oz thing. I kind of got messed up in the head.
Right. Okay. No. Yeah. The things we had to go through, and actually, yeah. You know, Dad, he feels like now he can die happy because he's been able somehow to redeem himself, and he says he can die happy now. You know, so
I'm glad to hear it. But I know,
he's thinking about dying anytime soon, but he wants to last till he's 120 years old. You know, so.
Oh yeah, because your mama's still alive, right? Your grandma?
Yeah, my mom.
Your father's mom.
No, my grandma. No, she died in 2004, I think, or 2000. Yeah, 2004.
Okay, so I thought she was still around, but she lived to be. How old was she when she died?
She was like 90 years old.
Oh, wow. So what do you think about her son, like his transition, like his transformation? Was she pretty cool with her son? What
did she think about her son's transformation?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I never talked to my grandma about that, actually. I don't know. She was happy that he wasn't in trouble again, that's for sure, and he was getting his life together. She did tell me that. She sounded proud, and I'd say back in the late 90s, the last time I talked to her about that. But my grandpa was also around during the time period of that movie, and they didn't show him. So I was wondering about that. I don't know. They probably didn't consider he was important either.
Well, it is. You know what? I look at the movie. I thought it was a great movie, but I thought it could be better because, you know, when the Malcolm X movie that Spike Lee did, it's like that scene with his family going through with the Night Riders and the Klan. I think if they included, like, you know, what he experienced when he was 6 years old with his brother getting his head blown off by the Klan,
Yeah.
I think it would have helped a lot as far as putting things in even a better context of why he did what he did.
Right. I think so, too, you know. You're right about that. You're right. I don't know why they didn't show... I mean, I think there were parts in the movie that could have been deleted in order to put that. You know?
Do you think it was a relief for you not to be included in the movie? I know my mom, we were looking at the movie, said, well, I know he had some kids. I thought, like, and, you know, I'm talking to you right now. Was it kind of a relief for you not to be in the movie or portray in the movie, or you think it was kind of like...
You know, yeah, I think that at that point, when they were filming the movie, I thought it was a relief, or it was good, because that way nobody had to know that I even existed, you know. But after thinking about it, I'm like, well, you know, it would have been beneficial to have since I did come out with my story. But it didn't bother me that they didn't put me on there, really. It didn't, you know, and it didn't bother me at all. So it is what it is, but they didn't put me, so I get to make my own movie now.
It's always a silver lining, huh?
Uh-huh.
So what did your father say? I mean, was he kind of, he was okay with you not being portrayed in the movie? I mean, what was his reaction to it?
He told me that, well, basically, you know, Hollywood is about making money, and they're just going to do what's going to be most efficient for them, quicker, you know. He just basically told me they didn't consider it important, you know, to put any kids in there, which didn't bother me.
And I would like to ask you, too, I know his buddy or his rival back in them days, Nicky Barnes. Have you been in contact with his daughters? Have y'all been talking?
Yeah, Nicky Barnes' daughters, they're still in witness protection. They call me. I can't call them. I don't even know where they are. Yeah, we talked for a long time, one time, because they told me that their life was just the same as mine, because even our mothers were in the same prison at the same time. But that the only difference is that they ended up having to go to foster care. So I was luckier than that, actually.
Right.
Because they didn't go through good experiences in foster care. And even though I had one lady call me on a radio show one day defending foster care, you know, that kids would be in a worse position, she's right. There are some foster parents that are a blessing to the children. But a lot of kids go through heck because some of these people are just, you know, wanting to get the money, don't treat the kids right. A lot of them get into sexual abuse situations, and, you know, it's better if the kid to stay with a relative if they can, you know. But they had to go to foster care, and they had really bad experiences there. So they're nice ladies.
So they have lent their support to what you're trying to do with Yellow Brick Roads, correct?
Yeah, they want to support however they can. You know, I have yet to figure out how we would do that because they don't, they're not out there. You know, they're just not public. They don't want to come out. They're on witness protection. So that makes it kind of hard for them to, you know, actively do stuff for. But you know what? I think I might put them on the board of directors. Who knows?
Yeah, you never know, man. It's funny. It's interesting because, you know, people always make these assumptions, like, you know, how they play it up in the media on the literature, like how your father and their father was such, you know, they didn't like each other. Or they hated each other. But
they didn't, I don't know that they hated each other, but it is true that they didn't like each other.
Okay.
And I think Nicky Barnes still don't like my dad.
So you got Cuba Gooding to betray him, and you got Denzel.
You know? Yeah, I mean, it was like, I think he still don't like my dad. I don't think so, because I've read some interviews where he's just dogging him out. But
and I was going to ask you this, too. I know it's a thing, like, it's like, I know Denzel played your father a certain way, but then I look at American Gangster, and somebody said that your dad couldn't read or write at the time when he was doing all these incredible deals. How true is that he was illiterate?
No, my dad could read and write. I mean, he's not a scholar, and everybody knows he has this real Southern, you know, he had this real bad Southern accent, and he's not the most educated person, quite frankly, you know. But one thing is he is very sophisticated and very intelligent. But the fact that, yeah, he could read and write back then. there was a point, yeah, he was, I think, a teenager when he learned how to read and write. He was working for Bumpy, but he could read and write. It wasn't, you know, he wasn't reading Shakespeare or none of that stuff, you know. And Denzel Washington was a polished version.
Yeah.
You know, we got to say that. He was a polished version of my dad. But my dad was no dummy. Come on now. He was no dummy. He wasn't, you know, very well spoken. He did have a lot of class.
Right.
You know, Nicky Barnes had a lot more education actually than my dad. You know, and he can speak much more eloquently and speak very, very well. But he was the one who was flashy. You know what I mean? So that's it all depends on what you're looking for.
No, I'm glad. I mean, you such a refresh. I ain't know what to expect. This is my first time ever hearing your voice and talking to you. And I can tell that you very much, like, you practice that Buddhist thing of being at peace. You have an inner peace about you that a lot of people don't have in this world. And I like to talk to you, especially you brought up Bumpy Johnson. I know his widow, Maine Johnson, is coming out with a book. It's kind of discredit Frank Lucas and his relationship with Bumpy Johnson. Have you spoke to anybody from that camp?
Yeah. My dad spoke to me about it. He said, you know what? It doesn't even sound like Mamie because, according to Dad, he lived with Mamie and Bumpy for maybe 2 years at the beginning. And he said that Mamie Johnson is the most classy, sophisticated lady he has ever met. Soft-spoken. And that why would she now at the age of 90-something come out and start to be confrontational like that? One, even if it were true what she was saying, which I haven't heard it from her mouth, because I went to that website and I heard her talking, but didn't hear her say directly that Frank Lucas was a liar, this and that. I read it on the website. So it is our opinion that the people doing the book are trying to capitalize on this whole, you know, American Gangster thing. Because that says that Mamie Johnson, even if it were true, she would not be the type of person to even come out and confront and talk like that in public. Right. The way she was. And now at the age of 90, all of a sudden start doing that, it doesn't make any sense to him. But also he says that, you know, most gangsters' wives don't know what their husbands are doing on the street. Their husbands don't come home at the end of the day and give them a report card and a rundown of who they were talking to, what they were doing, and who they hanging out with. No, that the woman usually just stay in the house, go shopping, whatever. What their husband does on the street, that's, you know, them. So Mamie wouldn't have even been up to speed of what Bumpy was doing on the street, even though they were very happy and they had a wonderful marriage. The street life was totally something Bumpy did not make her part of.
I'm glad you said that. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm glad you said it because that's why I was talking to my friend, because we all can read one book but get a different interpretation of that book. You know, it's all about, you know, your perception, and like you said, gangsters don't share everything with it. They try to separate the two, you know. It's very important. I mean, I'm sure your dad didn't bring all the people he dealt with on the streets to the house.
Never. Nothing but money. He didn't bring my mom didn't know who he was hanging out with, what he was doing, none of that. So I highly doubt that Bumpy Johnson would have made Mamie aware of any of his doings or what he was doing, any of that. You know, and it seems like the book, she's giving her first-hand information about stuff that she wouldn't probably even, you know. And so my dad thinks that it's just the person who's writing the book, whatever the author is, trying to make money, using Mamie to make money, which is terrible, you know.
This is true. I agree with you on that point. And also, I'd like to get your opinion. What was your father's impression of Bumpy? What did he tell you about Bumpy? What do you think about Bumpy from your point of view?
You know, when I've heard him speak about Bumpy in private, it was like Bumpy was like a dad. Two people he thought of his father more than his own father. That is, number one, Bumpy, and after Bumpy was gone, Joe Louis.
Oh, wow.
So it was like a father figure to him, you know. It was like a dad. And then Joe Louis was his dad after Bumpy was gone, and that was his relationship. And he would have done, if Bumpy Johnson would have told him to jump off a cliff, that's what he would have done. He would have said, you know, how far down, or do you want me to jump with one leg in front of the other? Anything Bumpy told him to do, that's what he would have done. And he was loyal to him to the end. That's what he says, you know.
I'm sorry. Well, let me ask you this, too, like, how would you want people to remember you?
Well, when I die?
Yeah. No, anytime soon, like long time from now.
Well, I haven't thought about that. I think of myself as, you know, because everybody says I look so much like because my father does have other children. I have other siblings on my father's side, and he's older than me. And out of all of his children, which are six of them, I'm the one who looks like him the most physically. He even says himself that I look more like him than all his sons together, and my personality is very much like his. So I feel that you know, hold on one second for me. That you know, I'm a person that went through a lot of things in my life, like a lot of people out there, and I pretty much, until the other day, I thought I was a freak show, because why, you know, did I have to go through all this, both my parents in prison, but thinking about it, I think that that was my purpose in life. So I'd like to be remembered as somebody who found her purpose in life and did something with it.
That's a very humble way of being remembered. I know I was looking at some of them rap album a while ago, and I saw his tombstone, and it said simply the words, "I tried." And I thought about it, I said, wow, that's amazing. So I agree with you what you just said. I mean, like, I had a professor told me one time, Ron, the only way you can fail at anything is if you stop trying. Even if you pass away, your ideas are left out here for somebody else to pick up, your momentum, your energy. So I'm very moved by what you have to say in your frankness and your honesty. I think that's about great things for you and your loved one in the future road ahead. Just keep on staying on that yellow brick road. And I know we'll definitely be in touch in the very near future. But before I let you go, I'd like to ask you, who is the most interesting person you ever met in your life?
The most interesting person I've ever met in my life? I'd say, you know, Desmond Tutu. I met him during the Olympics. I got to speak to him very briefly. But one of the people I would really like to know is, what's this guy's name? Whitaker? The actor?
Forrest Whitaker?
Yeah, I've been following that guy since the Crying Game. I can't wait to meet him.
So he's better to you. That's your favorite actor over Denzel or anybody else?
Yeah, that's my favorite actor in the world. Forrest.
What is it about Forrest then?
He just has this deep, he's just got this thing about him, this aura, he's just, I don't know, I can't even tell you what it is, but he just seems like a very, very, very smart, very spiritual person. I don't know why. I'm probably making this up, but that would be more than Oprah, more than anybody in the world. That would be, and Bill Clinton. I would love to meet that guy too. So.
Oh, that's cool. I know Forrest could more than Clinton, right?
Yeah. I haven't met them. Those would be the most interesting people I would like to meet, but the most interesting person I've ever met is Desmond Tutu.
Oh, that's cool. So what would be the best way to contact you if people want to help you with your cause and get in touch with you for other things or opportunities?
Yes, the best way to contact me is yellow at FrancINe at yellowbrickroads with an S at the end.org. And if anybody wants to help, go to cdbaby.com/yellowbrickroads and purchase the CD, which is like $15, and the proceeds goes to building the organization. And it would be fantastic. Kids would love it. We're trying to get this thing off the ground as soon as possible.
And your website is www.yellowbrickroads.org too?
Yellowbrickroads with an S at the end.org.
Well, Sister FrancINe, thank you so much for sharing your time on this Sunday afternoon with us and our audience. I know a lot of people got a lot of great things out of it. There was a lot of buzz, and I'm glad that people are really listening out there to We All Be Radio as well. I'm glad that you are able to carry forth your mission, your purpose in life, and hopefully you keep on continuing to attract positive attention as well as positive people to your cause. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
You too.